Hello everybody, I'm back. It's time to do Judges chapter 17 and 18. I'm going to do them together. It's a quick read, even though it's a lot of, it's a long passage, but it's just a quick read. Samson is the last of the Judges, but the book goes on for 5 more chapters. And this last few chapters, it is not in chronological order. So this could have even been like an explanation of what things were like before the Judges came. So it's, I thought it was really odd at first when I was studying to prepare for this. But the more I looked at it, the more interesting it became, which is true of a lot of biblical things. So it kind of takes a little bit of a prerequisite to kind of get into the beginning of this. In chapter 17, there is a man named Micah, and it's not the prophet Micah from the Bible. It's just a man named Micah. And he stole some silver from his mother. A lot of silver, worth a lot of money. I've heard people say how much, but I kind of spaced out how much this was worth. But it's significant. A lot of silver. And she doesn't realize her son has taken the money. And so, or the silver. And so she pronounces a curse over whoever took the silver. Well, then the son, Micah, he hears his mother pronounce this curse, and he realizes, I need to confess what I have done. And so he does. And strangely, right when he does that, she's like, oh, it's okay, because it's her son. So anyway, let's go ahead and read this. This is at the beginning of chapter 17. Now there was a man of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Micah. He said to his mother, the 1,100 pieces of silver which were taken from you, about which you uttered a curse in my hearing, behold, the silver is with me. I took it. And his mother says, blessed be my son by the Lord. Oh, you took it. Oh, bless you. So anyway, she's probably thinking twice about pronouncing that curse over whoever took it, now that she realizes it was her son who took it. But this was significant. I mean, he stole this from his own mother. Okay? Then he returned the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother, and his mother said, I wholly dedicate the silver from my hand to the Lord for my son to make a graven image and a molten image. Now, therefore, I will return them to you. So she's dedicating this silver that he stole. She's giving it back to him, but to make a molten image, an idol, or idols, basically. Do you guys remember in Exodus, the 10 Commandments? One of them was not to make idols, okay? Not to have an idol. Okay. Let's pick it up at verse 5. Wait a minute, verse 4. So when he returned the silver to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave them to the silversmith, who made them into a graven image and a molten image, and they were in the house of Micah. So she had idols made out of some of this, and Micah kept them in his house. They're not supposed to do that. They're not supposed to have idols. And the man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and household idols, and consecrated one of his sons that he might become his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. No joke. So anyway, yeah. So Micah had more. He made a shrine, which basically my footnote says house of gods. The shrine is like a house of gods. And he consecrated one of his sons that his son might become his own priest. People didn't have their own personal priest. It wasn't like that. That's not how God designed it. We read Exodus together. Did we read Leviticus together? I don't remember. But anyway, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, those are the books of the law or the books of Moses. And this is not how God set up the priesthood and worship at all. Okay, let's keep going with verse 7. Now there was a young man from Bethlehem in Judah, one of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he was staying there. Then the man departed from the city, from Bethlehem in Judah, to stay wherever he might find a place. And as he made his journey, he came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah. Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to stay wherever I may find a place." Micah then said to him, "Dwell with me and be a father and priest to me, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver in a year, a suit of clothes, and your maintenance." So the Levite went in. The Levite agreed to live with the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. So Micah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest and lived in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will prosper me, seeing I have a Levite as a priest." It's almost like, this is the impression I got, and as I listen to other people talk about this passage, a lot of them get the same impression. This is not how God designed the priesthood. Nobody had their own priest living in their home or anything like that. The tabernacle, which was like the the movable temple, was in Shiloh at the time, and that's where the priests served. So this is really odd. Now the priests, I wondered when I first read this, when verse 7, when it says, "Now there was a young man from Bethlehem in Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he was staying there." I'm like, well, how could he be a Levite and from Bethlehem and be from of the family of Judah? So he was living in the territory of Judah. I'm not going to get my map out right now, but if you have one, you can look. So he was living in the territory of Judah, but he was a Levite. Now the Levites, the cities of the Levites were scattered all over. So I took a few footnotes. I Googled it and I took a few footnotes. So I wrote down, he was likely a Levite by lineage, living in Bethlehem, which is in the territory of Judah, but he possibly was connected to Judah through marriage, but he had to have, let me read the rest. He could be a Levite on his father's side and a member of Judah on his mother's side. That, I think, is more likely. Levites could marry into other tribes who were living, and Levites were living in all the tribal lands. They didn't have their own, like, territory, like the Levite territory, but they had cities throughout all the other tribes' territories, okay? So, Micah took in this priest like he wanted his own priest. That's not how it was done. And I think it was done because they did not study their own heritage and scriptures. You know, Moses in the book of Deuteronomy, those are Moses' speeches before he died. And, they were always told to remember these things. And I think they were ignorant. I think they didn't know how things were supposed to be done. Meaning they didn't learn what the Lord had for them to learn. It was very specific. All these things were written down. What they had, how the priesthood worked, how what they did in the tabernacle, all of that. And it's like they just had no clue, and they were just trying to do it in their own way. Like verse 6 said, "In those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes." So people do that today, but this was a special case here. So let's read verse 18. We're going to talk about the Danites. These are the people from the tribe of Dan. "In those days there was no king in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the Danites was seeking an inheritance for themselves to live in. For until that day, an inheritance had not been allotted to them as a possession among the tribes of Israel. So the sons of Dan sent from their family 5 men out of their whole number, valiant men from Zorah to Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to search it. And they said to them, 'Go search the land.' And they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and lodged there." So the people from Dan, they had a tribal land, but they never really defeated all the people and took their land like they should have, is what history tells us. And so, God told them to kick out all those people groups that were there, and they didn't do that. And so they're leaving, and they're looking for another land, and they come across this where Micah lives. Okay? So Micah's story is intertwined with these Danites. When they were near the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young man, the Levite. And they turned aside there and said to him, "Who brought you here? And what are you doing in this place? And what do you have here?" He said to them, "Thus and so has Micah done to me, and he's hired me, and I've become his priest." So this guy, it's his job to live with Micah and be his priest. Now, these people from Dan obviously knew this Levite that Micah had hired. I mean, they recognize him. They recognize his voice. They said to him, "Inquire of God, please, that we may know whether our way on which we are going will be prosperous." Like, we're looking for a new land for our tribe. Will it be prosperous? The priest said to them, "Go in peace. Your way in which you are going has the Lord's approval." Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, Laish, and saw the people who were in it living in security, after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and secure, for there was no ruler humiliating them for anything in the land, and they were far from the Sidonians and had no dealings with anyone. So they come to the city Laish, and they're like, well, these people are not being harassed by anyone. The Danites, I think they were harassed by, it's not right in the text, but I did a little research, by the Philistines and by another group. I'm trying to remember which group it was. But anyway, let's keep reading. When they came back to their brothers at Zorah and Eshtaol, their brothers said to them, "What do you report?" They said, "Arise, and let us go up against them. For we have seen the land, and behold, it was very good. And will you sit still? Do not delay to go to enter, to possess the land. When you enter, you will come to a secure people with a spacious land, for God has given it into your hand, a place where there is no lack of anything that is on the earth. This must be quite the place." Then from the family of the Danites, from Zorah and from Eshtaol cities, 600 men armed with weapons of war set out. So 600 men of the tribe of Dan go out to try to take over this area, Lashish. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Laish, Laish. They went up and camped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah. Therefore, and you can look at all these places on a map. If you have a map, go for it. Therefore they called that place Manath Dan to this day. Behold, it is west of Kiriath Jearim. They passed from there to the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. Micah's house is nearby. Yeah, they never fully possessed their own tribal lands. The tribe of Dan didn't. And so that's why they're looking for more land. Now they're going to war against these people of Laish, 600 of them. My thought is, if you could do this, couldn't you have kicked out went to war with the people who were in your own tribal land and kicked them out? I mean, if you can fight these other people, why didn't you fully possess your own tribal land? But what do I know? Okay, verse 14. Then the 5 men who went to spy out the country of Laish said to their kinsmen, "Do you know that there are in these houses an ephod and household idols and a graven image and a molten image? Now therefore consider what you should do." They've noticed the expensive idols in Micah's house. They turned aside there and came to the house of the young man, the Levite, to the house of Micah, and asked him of his welfare, like the priest, "How are you doing?" The 600 men, armed with their weapons of war, who were of the sons of Dan, stood by the entrance of the gate. Now the 5 men who went to spy out the land went up and entered there, and took the graven image and the ephod and household idols and the molten image, while the priest stood by the entrance of the gate with 600 men armed with weapons of war. So these 600 Danite soldiers are basically stealing Micah's weapons. Okay. When these went into Micah's house and took the graven image, the ephod and household idols and the molten image, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" They said to him, "Be silent. Put your hand over your mouth and come with us, and be to us a father and a priest. Is it better for you to be a priest to the house of one man, or to be the priest to a tribe and a family in Israel? So they're like, quit being Micah's priest, be our priest. So he's like, you could be the priest of our whole tribe. Micah being one man, Micah's priest, it doesn't say his name, Micah's priest being one man is not going to stop them, 600 people, from taking his idols. And they have weapons. The priest's heart was glad, and he took the ephod and household idols and a graven image and went among the people. The ephod is something the priests wore. Then they turned and departed and put the little ones and the livestock and valuables in front of them. When they had gone some distance from the house of Micah, the men who were in the houses near Micah's house assembled and overtook the sons of Dan. It's almost like, I picture like his neighbors trying to protect Micah's idols and household, okay? They're trying to retaliate. They cried to the sons of Dan, who turned around and said to Micah, cried to the sons of Dan, who turned around and said to Micah, what is the matter with you that you have assembled together? He said, you have taken away my gods, which I made. So Micah's there. Micah said this. You've taken away my gods, which I have made, and the priest, and have gone away, and what do I have besides? So how can you say to me, what is the matter with you? The sons of Dan said to him, do not let your voice be heard among us, or else fierce men will fall upon you, and you will lose your life with the lives of your household. They're threatening to kill him. So these neighbors were crying to the sons of Dan, who turned around and said to Micah, what is the matter with you that you have assembled together? So Micah has assembled these neighbors. And Micah's saying, you have taken away my gods. Real God can't be taken away. Anyway, yeah, these are just idols. But, you know, they're worth a lot because of the silver and whatnot that they're made of. The sons of Dan said to him, they threatened to kill him and his household. So the sons of Dan went on their way, and when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his house. So he let them take the idols because he was not going to be able to defeat them. Then they took what Micah had made and the priest who had belonged to him, and came to Laish, to a people quiet and secure, and struck them with the edge of the sword, and they burned the city with fire. So they took over the city of Laish. That's going to be their new home, okay? And there was no one to deliver them, because it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with anyone. And it was in the valley, which is near Beth Rehob, Rehob, and they rebuilt the city and lived it. So the tribe of Dan rebuilt that city and lived in it. The people there had nobody, they had no associations with any other people, and so they didn't really have anyone to come help them fight. The sons of Dan set up for themselves the graven image. They're going to be in idol worship as well. And Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, and he and his sons were priests to the tribe of the Danites until the day of the captivity of the land. So Jonathan is the priest that was serving, we get his name now. He was the priest that was serving Micah's household, and now he's going to serve the tribe of Dan. But not only him, his sons will be priests to them as well. It's not the way it was supposed to be. This is all backwards from the way that the earlier scriptures described it should be. But I really do think these people just thought they should do it their way. I mean, like the verse said in the prior chapter, everybody did what was right in his own eyes. So they set up for themselves Micah's graven image, which he had made all the time that the house of God was at Shiloh. The house of God is the tabernacle. It was in the city of Shiloh, which was nearby. That was the actual tabernacle. That's where they were supposed to worship. And they weren't supposed to have their own priests and set up these idols. I mean, it's almost like, you know, they'd grown apart from God. They didn't know their history, which their ancestors had warned them about. It's pretty interesting. Like I said, this isn't in chronological order, so the judges may have come after this. And Samson was the last of our judges, but there's still more story to be told in this book. So we have 3 chapters left, and I will catch you next week to go over this, at least part of that.